Brothers and sisters, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be back with all of you again. Now, this is a topic which is very close to my heart, and I've always wanted to share my thoughts about this. I've spoken to students and teachers and parents a lot on the subject, and I hope you find this video informative and useful. Now, every time exam schedules are announced or results are announced, you find two different kinds of reactions playing out on social media. One, you have people congratulating the top performers or wishing the students the very best and saying, great job, you've scored 499 out of 500, amazing, okay, you're a role model. And then you also find others putting comments like, marks don't matter at all, so what's the big deal about someone scoring 499? Because life is much more than just marks and academic scores. Now, we live in a free world, of course, okay, and we respect everyone's opinions. But if what we say or the thoughts that we have, especially when we share them on a public platform, if these thoughts will influence others and will get them to behave in a particular way, I think we need to be a little more responsible. When we state our opinions, we need to say that these are opinions, and when we state facts, we should say that these are facts, and we shouldn't confuse between the two. Now, for example, I might have seen someone, probably from my friendship circle, who was not very brilliant at academics, but who made it really big in life, and then this might prompt me to opine that you don't have to do well in school to succeed in life. Now, this is overgeneralizing. This is a thinking error. At the same time, on the other hand, I might have seen someone who didn't do well in school and really struggled through life, and this might prompt me to say, if you don't do well in academics, you will be a loser all your life. So this is overgeneralizing as well. So we need to make sure that we are realistic when it comes to expressing our opinions, especially on something that's as important as this, particularly because it influences the thoughts of our children and of our youngsters. So what I want to share with you is the results of a study, a scientific study that was conducted by a very reputed university on valedictorians. Okay, now you know who a valedictorian is, right? A valedictorian is someone who is a topper at school, and the valedictorian gets to give a speech on graduation day. Now, they followed the lives of valedictorians for more than 15 years, and they found that a majority of these top performers at school went on to join the best universities, get into the best organizations, do very well at their jobs, and enjoy fat pay packets and bonuses, and do very well in life. Very well in life in terms of salaries, in terms of having a job that accorded them status in society, and enjoying a good standard of living. I'm not talking about other indicators like happiness and fulfillment. Okay, that's a different story altogether. 86% of valedictorians did very well in later life, okay? But the study also found that very few of them went on to become successful entrepreneurs and multimillionaire business people, okay? Now, some of you might immediately pounce on this particular nugget and say that, see, you know, you don't have to be a top performer to do well as a businessman, to do well as an entrepreneur. You can be creative and you can do what you want to do. Yes, but I think we need to take a closer look at the numbers as well. While 86% of valedictorians did really well, 0.006% of also-rans, those who were not valedictorians, those who were not really doing well at school and not getting great marks, became successful entrepreneurs and multimillionaire business people. So, and it's obvious when they analyzed why valedictorians did well at work, they found that valedictorians are focusing on getting good academic scores, gave certain attitudes to these students and gave them certain work habits, like number one, result orientation, okay, being ambitious and setting high targets. Number two, being meticulous in whatever they were doing. Whenever they're doing something, they would try to do it in a perfect manner. Number 3 is having grit, which is long-term perseverance. So even if they fail, they'll bounce back up because those goals were paramount for them. And number 4, following the rules, making sure that they understood the rules and they didn't break them. Now, this is why they became successful at work. Now, it's very clear, to be an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to break the rules. Instead of being meticulous at what you do, you need to break what you're doing, transform what you're doing, and do different things. And that's the reason they were not successful as entrepreneurs. But I think, as I said before, the numbers are quite important. 86% there and 0.006% over there. So if we have to advise our kids, what do we tell them? Now, this is what I tell my kids. You know, if you put everything that you want from life in a heap, like a good job, salary, and status, okay, now this is like a mountain. There are different ways of approaching that mountain, okay? Now, one way is to study well and be meticulous and to score well, and you can reach there. And 86% of chances of reaching there are there. On the other hand, okay, you don't have to study. You can try to be an entrepreneur. You can try to be a businessman, and you can reach there, okay? But then the chances are 0.006%. That's 6 out of 1,000. Okay, so the difference is, one is like getting into a taxi, getting into a metro, or probably into a business class flight, or the other one could be about walking and jumping and swimming and climbing a mountain and reaching there. You can reach there, and there are a lot of people in between as well. Okay, so when we talk about the merits or demerits of pursuing high academic scores, I think it's extremely important to explain the odds to our friends, okay, and so that they can take an informed decision in life. So what could be a win-win situation? This is what I tell my kids. I tell them to definitely focus on academics and marks, and at the same time, I want to give them certain skills that schools cannot give them because they're focusing on certain other factors. Things like entrepreneurial skills, creative thinking, risk-taking, interpersonal skills. So if I can complement what schools are doing, the great job schools are doing, and impart these skills to my children, I think they get to enjoy the best of both worlds. Now, this is a very balanced and healthy approach to take towards scores and exams and doing well. Now, the second myth that I've seen being circulated on social media is that, you know, when you focus on studies, you sometimes, or parents sometimes, tend to sort of neglect the talents and passions of their children, and they don't get an opportunity to work on their skills and their passions and their hobbies. And then those who are doing really well in academics are nerds and geeks and boring people. Now, nothing can be farther from the truth, because for the last 10 to 15 years I've worked with students, and I've worked with top performers in particular. We pursue them, we meet them, we try to understand, we try to see the difference that makes a difference. And these top performers are nothing but nerds, guys. You know, they watch Netflix, they're pretty well groomed, they listen to the latest songs, watch all the latest movies, they go out with friends, and they're quite interesting. They read a lot, they pursue their passions and hobbies. Many of them have got hobbies. Many of them are into extracurricular activities, sports, musical instruments, social work. So it's definitely the thought that, you know, you have to be a nerd and you have to sacrifice everything else to be a top performer is not true, because if you plan it out correctly, and if you work diligently, you can definitely balance all these things together and still succeed. Of course, you have to prioritize. When it's exam times, you have to shift your focus towards exams. When you have some free time, you shift your focus to co-curricular activities. But once you've done your core tasks which are expected from you, you will definitely have time to work on other things as well. The third myth that works against being diligent is that, you know, the popular notion that not everyone can do well, not everyone can be a topper. Okay, of course, everyone cannot be a topper. That defies the laws of math. But what we have really found is, when we have worked closely with top performers, they're not very different from the rest of us. Okay, if you have baseline intelligence, and if you've reached grade 8 and grade 9 and grade 10, that means definitely you have a certain threshold of intelligence. You can definitely do much better. Okay, you don't have to have any particular IQ levels or particular talents which are inborn and inherited. God doesn't play favorites like that. Okay, so the difference that makes a difference is the habits that people have. Number one, they're extremely ambitious, so they're very focused. They want to do well in exams, and they're very result oriented. So when they open a textbook, they have a particular goal. I have to understand this. It's not that you just sit and spend time going through the books, okay, in a lackluster manner. And they listen well in class. If they're not clear, they ask questions. They have friends and who have similar goals and interests, and they study together. Okay, they refer to a lot of other materials. They do a lot of practice tests. So it's these work habits that make a difference. And of course, I don't want to get into it. It's been proven that it's your neurons inside your head and how will you work these neurons and how will you practice that makes a difference. It's not anything that you're born with that can give you that leading edge towards success. So yes, what I'm saying is that if you try to understand what winners do differently, and if you inculcate those habits and if you follow those habits for a long time, then you definitely can do much better. And as they say, there's much more to us than this. There's much more to us than this. So if someone can score 599, I'm not saying you too can score 599 because there are a lot of variables at play, but I'm sure you can definitely do much more than what you're faring currently. The next thing that I want to say is there are a lot of people berating the CBSE system, saying that, oh my God, this is obsolete. It doesn't prepare students to face life. It doesn't create a well-rounded individual. Now, this is again a thinking error, because we're looking at all or nothing thinking. Either something is very good or something is very bad. No, life actually exists. It's like a thermometer. It's got degrees. So when you talk about CBSE stream, the education system, of course, I don't say that it's the best system in the world. It tends to overburden students at times. It's not very application oriented. Yes, there are problems, but at the same time, there are a lot of good things about the CBSE system as well. And if we can let the results do the talking, talk about Sundar Pichai, talk about Indra Nooyi, talk about Satya Nadella, talk about probably 60 to 70% of the second tier of most of the successful companies in Silicon Valleys, they're from India, and most of them have gone through the CBSE stream. So when I speak to principals, Mr. Srivalsan Murugan is a dear friend, I keep asking him this question: Sir, does CBSE provide a competitive edge to students? And they say definitely, because he meets a lot of students who come back after doing their first or second year at university abroad, and they say, for us it's cakewalk, because it prepares you for the grind. Okay, because there's so much of load, and because you have to be systematic in what you do, what it does is students are not afraid to take effort. Okay, students are not overwhelmed when they're given a project. So all the faculties that they gain, being meticulous, being diligent, being result oriented, and the willingness to take a lot of hard work, to do a lot of hard work, pays out in the end. So the question is CBSE the best system in the world? Definitely not. But is CBSE really that bad? Definitely not, again. But then there's another aspect, my dear friends. If we don't really believe in the system, I think we need to take our children out of it. You can't put your child in a track and field event and then say, oh, the turf is not good, oh, the gun that goes off is not good, the referee is not perfect, so my son, you don't have to work hard. Okay, as long as you're part of the system, you need to really make sure that you try your best, because there's much more to us than what we have really demonstrated. We have immense potential which is untapped. Okay, so I think that's the spirit we need to embrace. The last point that I want to talk about is the allegation that, parents stress our children a lot by focusing on academics. My dear friends, stress is everywhere. You get into a job, you're stressed, okay? In life, as you get older, there are a lot of factors that can cause you stress. So shielding our children from stress is not the right strategy. I think we should teach our kids to manage stress. And how do we teach our kids to manage stress? By first of all giving them confidence that they can do it. Okay, by being with them, telling them that we are there to support you in every single way, teaching them techniques where they can listen well in class, where the hours that they spend are productive, allowing them to pursue their passions and hobbies after they've finished their core objectives, teaching them mindfulness. There are so many other ways. Spending quality time with them, and that too in a systematic manner, can definitely help our children cope with stress. Okay, and as a psychologist, again, unless you get out of your comfort zone, you will never grow. Okay, so there are a lot of hidden faculties within us. Unless we challenge ourselves, unless we stress ourselves a little bit, okay, these faculties will never come out and we will never grow as a person. So please don't come up with this argument that we need to keep our children comfortable. No, that's not the way it should be. We should, of course, manage it in an appropriate manner and help them to get the better of the stress that they feel when they try to challenge themselves. Okay, so if I can summarize all this, what I would like to say is, yes, I don't think we should focus a lot on marks on 499 and 498, but this is what we need to tell our children and our wards in particular. Okay, your job is to learn, so there's no excuse. You have to set amazing goals for yourselves, okay, and you need to really try different strategies to reach there. You need to be result oriented, you need to listen well in class, you need to have good friends, you need to clear your doubts, and you need to really put in 2 to 3 hours of hard work every single day. And if you're convinced that you're doing that, you're doing your best to reach there, I think then marks don't matter. But there's no excuse. Okay, this is not the time for you to slack off. This is not the time for you to say CBSE doesn't matter. Bill Gates dropped out. Bill Gates dropped out from Harvard, by the way. So if you've reached Harvard, then he would have definitely inculcated all the skills that would help him to succeed in life. So your job now is to really do well in what you're supposed to do. Do that, get the support of your teachers and parents, and all the very best. Thank you.